GatherGeeks is brought to you by Master Planner Online. Choose your event date with confidence. Avoid costly scheduling conflicts with Master Planner. With this continuously updated online calendar of fundraisers, important openings, and major events, you'll know precisely what's happening and where in New York and Los Angeles. Subscribe today at masterplanneronline.com.
Are you a follower? Okay, so we're gonna probably add.
Welcome to GatherGeeks, a podcast by BizBash, the place where people passionate about meetings and events come together. Here are your hosts, BizBash CEO David Adler and Executive Editor Beth Cormanek.
Thank you for joining us today. Beth Cormanek is on assignment. Today, I have the honor of presenting an interview that I did with Michael Cerbelli. You may know him as a major event producer and the presenter of Michael Cerbelli's Hot List, but I know him as a friend. So we sit down and we talk about careers. We talk about how he navigated his career in events from being a DJ in Long Island as a teen to a sophisticated and strategic event professional today. So please think of Michael's story as both inspirational and instructional. And just as companies pivot from their original mission, individuals planning their careers also need to be flexible, open to curiosity, and lifelong learning so that it can propel you in directions that you never even thought possible. So please have a listen. So we're here with Michael Cerbelli. He's a friend of mine, one of the top event professionals in New York City and around the world, actually. So Michael, you talked about how you like to reinvent yourself every 10 years. Give us a little bit about your path. You started at 13?
That's correct.
Okay, tell us the story and keep it from the point of view of how do you advise the person that's 13 now that wants to get into event organizing in some big way?
Let's start
some master plan.
Yes, let's start the conversation this way. Get out. Don't do it. It's very funny. First, hi, David. It means a lot to me that we are friends. I want you to know that. So it's an honor to be here with you today. You know, at 13 years old, it started as I didn't want to be an event producer or planner.
You thought at 13 that you wanted to even think about being an event
No,
producer?
it wasn't. You know what I wanted to do? I saw Saturday Night Fever. I was 1977. That's when I was 13 years old. And I thought the cool thing was the DJ in the movie, not the dancing. And I was like, wow, look at him with all the girls in the DJ booth. So I wanted to be a DJ. So in 1977, and it was September 10th, 1977, because it was my 13th birthday. And there was an event on Labor Day weekend of that year. And it should have been the event that weekend. It rained and they moved it to the next weekend. So on my birthday, I had a half a milk crate. Yes, milk crate of records. And we played for 8 hours. I played the same songs about 6 times in that 8-hour period. And I got paid $25. And I thought it was the greatest thing in the world.
And so who paid you? This was your own birthday?
This was the American Legion Hall.
Wait a minute. How did you get a client at 13?
So my dad passed away when I was very young, at 10 and a half, and he was a big part of the American Legion Hall. He was in the Army in World War II. And so the American Legion Hall always watched out for me. And they knew I started to get Radio Shack turntables and all this stuff. And they said, why don't you DJ the party? And I did.
And how did you know how to be a DJ at that era?
I had no idea what I was doing. I was basically going, the song would end, I go to the next song. I go to this song back and forth, and that's what we did.
So that was the spark.
Yes.
What was next?
So through the years, I built up a career as Michael's Music Madness. That was the first company, Michael's Music Madness. And through my teens, I learned how to DJ. I wanted to learn. And from Radio Shack turntables, they became Technique 1200 turntables, which every DJ had to have. And then I finished high school. I got a job on Wall Street at the First Boston Corporation at 5 World Trade
Okay,
Center.
wait, before you go to leaving high school.
Yeah.
What I have found when I've talked to most event organizers is that they've done something in high school that influenced them in their careers.
Oh, yeah.
What did you do in high school that made you know you like what this business is about?
I was big in drama class, huge. I was the lead in every play. So I liked being the DJ because I was a front and center. So yes, it led from DJing into my drama class, did all the plays at school. And then funny, I wanted to be an architect. So I was designing a lot too. So from designing in school, being in the drama club and DJing, it was all part of that.
Did you actually organize events in high school?
Oh yeah.
What events what was your favorite event you organized?
My favorite event was when we used to do sing at school, all the different grades. So my grade, I moved up in the years with school, so we produced sing.
What was that?
Sing was your grade, and always the seniors won because it was the big deal. Always the seniors would win, but a junior, freshman, all that stuff your grade would go out there and produce a 30-minute show. And it was all music based on a theme that you guys picked. So that was my first real wow.
And what did you learn from that you're still doing?
That we were horrible at what we were doing because the teachers never taught us. But I learned how to organize, how to get people together, how to practice them, rehearse.
And what was the secret to that?
Being the leader. Can I tell you that? I truly believe that because everybody's looking for someone to guide us, take us on this trip. So as a freshman, horrible. Junior, better. Seniors, we really.
But you kept that in your brain that you needed your strategic brain said, in order to get from point A to point B, I need to lead the crowd.
But you say yes, and I'll tell you why. Because if you think about it, we were doing drama class. There was a director. So I was following what the director was telling us. Now was my role to be the director. So that's what I had to lead. And that's what I was looking for guidance as being in a play. And then being in Sing, leading it, I had to direct.
So that director metaphor is probably one of the key learnings for everything you do, right?
I would say so, yes.
I mean, if you're a DJ, you're directing the crowd.
Right. You're absolutely right, because you got to know what song to put on next. You can't lose the dance floor. It's very, very important.
You're watching all the senses at the same time. So was that one of Michael's new rules at the age of whatever high school was?
I will tell you that goes into my 20s, the new rules. Okay. I will tell you that I got better at it as I went on, but I knew what the seasoning was to begin the sauce. Let's put it that way.
Okay, tell us. Dig deeper.
So, as I was saying before, in my teens as a DJ was very interesting, but when I graduated high school, I wasn't really ready for college, but I got a great job at the First Boston Corporation at 5 World Trade Center. And they put me through college. And it was very funny. I came home at 22 years old. I'm going to Pace University. I'm enjoying myself. And there was one year that I was at Kingsborough Community College that I was working on the radio station there too. So it was, again, learning how to be on a microphone, having a good time with everybody, leading again. But I came home one day from work, and my mother's sitting on my bed, and she looked at me. She was white as a ghost. I said, "What's wrong?" She goes, "Are you selling drugs?" I said, "Am I selling drugs? Why would you ask me such a question?" There was $20,000 worth of cash underneath my bed from DJing. I was working on Wall Street. I didn't need the cash. Every time I DJ'd an event, I put it underneath my bed in a shoebox, and I was like, "This is fantastic." So from there.
So how much did you make for an event? What was the going rate?
You're talking 80s, $300 to $500.
And you did that at night. And what nights did you DJ?
As much as I could.
Were you DJing all the time?
Oh yeah.
And how did you get the jobs? What was your marketing?
Go into clubs. A lot of club people would ask you, would you do our event? I have a wedding. I would advertise in the Canarsie Courier, Penny Saver. You'd take out those little ads and the phone would ring. So $300 to $500 a pop wasn't too bad.
And so every weekend, this was your every weekend?
Yeah, practically. I would say probably at that time we were probably doing maybe 50 events a year.
Really? And how old were you at this point?
I'm between the ages of 18 and 22.
And 22. So how did then that evolve into the next phase of your career?
So at 22, after my mom hit me with this, I was like, wow, I'm
maybe I should sell drugs.
She needed drugs with me being in the house with all the DJ equipment. But there was a company on Long Island, and the gentleman's name was Evan J. Mirabel. And he had a company called EJM Entertainment. And someone told me about him about 2-3 months earlier, and I looked him up, and December 16th of 1984, him and I connected, and I wound up doing an event with him. It was a holiday party. But what Evan was doing was something I was doing. We had 100-foot microphone cable where we would go out into the crowd. So when I was DJing, I was actually going out into the crowd getting people to sing along. There was no wireless microphones at that time. We had 100-foot cable, and you had to watch that no one tripped on it and things like that. And he was doing the same thing, but he had a DJ behind him. He was the MC. So now we started to build a company together. And the two companies were EJM and Heart to Heart. and we ruled Long Island. So basically from the 80s through the 90s, we reinvented the industry where the MC, the DJ, and motivational dancers would go out. But now if you go back to that and say, how did I guide myself on this? I had to learn now how to coordinate events. We were doing, at our peak in the 80s, 40 events a weekend, and that's not an exaggeration.
How did you do that? Must have had a big crew.
We did. We had 15 teams. We would do anywhere from 4 to 8 events on a Friday. Doubles on Saturday means you do an afternoon event, pack up and get to another event. So we would do 20 to 25 events on a Saturday, and then 8 to 10 events on a Sunday.
And who were the customers?
We had a very big bar and bat mitzvah following from New York to New Jersey, and Westport, Connecticut was huge for us. So an
Italian kid.
Yeah.
Huge in the bar mitzvah
Ready?
world.
I had to teach grandfathers that didn't know it. I was an Italian kid from Canarsie, Brooklyn. Yeah, I had to learn the Haftorah.
So what was your life like during that period, and how did you handle it at that age?
It was crazy because we were local celebrities. I will tell you that. We were 100% local celebrities.
Did it go to your head?
We had a good time in the 80s and 90s.
What does that mean? Can you dig a little deeper?
No, but we had a good time in the 80s and 90s. So as you see The Wolf of Wall Street, we were doing those events. We were part of those events at the country clubs, at being at all these parties. But the big thing, and the reason I mention that, because we were doing captains of industry events, meaning if we did a bar and bat mitzvah, who were the parents? We really didn't know, but I wanted to know more. And I will always dedicate my life to this one gentleman because he changed my life. Because as I said, in the 70s, I was this. In the 80s, I was that. 90s, this. 2000 and on. We did an event for Stu Barrett's. And I did his 40th birthday party. I did his 50th. I've done his 60th. I've done both.
From people that you met back when you were doing DJing?
Oh, yeah. This is back in the 80s. Did both kids' bar mitzvahs. Did both kids' weddings. Did his 25th wedding anniversary in the Hamptons. This career with Stu and Renee Barrett's really was the ones that changed it. I'll never forget, we got done with one of Stu's events, and he said to me, you're going to do my incentive program in Puerto Rico. At the Ceramar. Remember the old Ceramar in Puerto Rico? There was the Ceramar in Dorado. And I didn't know what incentive program was, but he said, it'll give me $5,000 to go to Puerto Rico. I was like, okay, let's go to Puerto Rico. I didn't know what incentive program was. But when I got there, I realized there was meetings during the day. There was all these programs that were going on. And he gave me this opportunity to perform the closing night party. And it was such a success that the Ceramar asked us to stay because there was another group coming in 3 days later and wanted us to do their event.
What was it like? Give us a little bit of an example of what was so great.
It was truly what the 80s and 90s were in corporate America.
Okay, tell us what that is.
Opulence.
Opulence?
Yes, it was a party. Incentives.
Give us the context of the era. So we're like the era of like the $5 cookie. I mean, was it that era? Was it?
Yes, it was decor, big decor on the tables.
Big hair and big decor.
Exactly. But Stu, who was the chairman of this company, gave me this guidance and said, this is where you want to be. The bar and bat mitzvah is fun, and we were doing great. Don't get me wrong. We had a multi-million-dollar
What about
business.
that? Give advice to others who may be listening about how you should stretch yourself.
So when we got involved with the bar and bat mitzvahs, that was a nice click. That was the lane that we're in. But what I realized from Stu, there were other avenues. It wasn't just the social market. Not realizing that a kid from Brooklyn, what's corporate America? Why are they doing events? So I started to want to know more. And this really got really deeper in the 90s with me. What is corporate America? Why are they having these events? And yes, we went through a recession in the 90s and stuff like that. But in the late 90s is when I started to go to conferences like the Special Events Show, Event Solutions, to get to know what was going on, to understand what was going on in our world. And I met the who's who of our industry. And a dear friend of ours, Jacqueline Bernstein, will always say how I met Jacqueline. I handed her a pen. Here's my company. and I gave her a pen from my company, and we wound up becoming friends.
But in those days, you were mostly on the entertainment side?
Yes, so truly on the entertainment side.
You were truly an entertainment
correct
guru.
But what a lot of people, and a lot of people still say this to me to this day, Michael doesn't know how to say no. People would say to me, help me produce my bar mitzvah. Help me produce my corporate event. I would say yes. So I understood what bar mitzvahs were. I understood what you had to do from invitation to thank you note. So I learned how to organize the event, but I had to know more. And my own people weren't going to teach me in my industry because they really didn't know. We were just the entertainers. So I started going to these conferences, which I heard about. Hey, you can learn a lot from them. They teach this, they teach that. So I wanted to open up my broad base. So yes, I went to 101 on event planning or understanding.
But what was the charismatic thing that the people that were your clients wanted to translate from your DJing experience to the total event experience? Like, what were you doing what do you think you were doing that made, we're all about audience engagement and guest engagement now, and that seems to be one of the secret sauces. You seem to have been doing something in that realm unbeknownst to yourself.
So I will tell you this, in the early 90s, my business partner, Evan, his wife, heard that I wanted to charge a package for myself. She said, what do you mean a package? And I said, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to be myself as the MC, a DJ, 3 male, 3 female performers, and a video screen and some lighting. And we're going to charge $5,000 for that. And steam came out of her ears. You can't charge. Who's going to pay $5,000 for you? But what it did was made me almost a commodity. People wanted to know who this guy was that now is charging $5,000 an event. And as the years went on, it went to $6,000, $7,500, $10,000. When I retired from emceeing in the early 2000s, I was charging $25,000 an event. But what I wasn't afraid to do was when people would say to me, could you do it this price? No, this is what I'm worth. This is what I'm getting. So I made it that this is a guy that you want to have at your events, and he knows a lot about what he's doing because I was really working hard. So for myself, and I'll never forget that first year with Evan, me personally, I did 126 events personally for the company. At the end, I was doing about 20 to 25 because that's what I wanted to do. Less is more, but I was getting $25,000 a gig. But all the people that were using me said, well, he has to know what he's doing. He's charging these kind of dollars. Let's give him the event.
So in the culture now, the DJ is a superstar and making hundreds of thousands of dollars an event.
Correct.
Why is it that you foresaw that trend? I mean, what about what the DJ does makes them so valuable?
I've been asked that question before, David. It's two very different avenues. The DJ that's getting 100,000, 500,000, making millions, these guys, they're filling arenas and things like that with their music. They're creating music.
Right.
We were, on our end, creating wows with the events. We knew who the families were. So if I went to this event, it wasn't just walking into a bar mitzvah. I could tell you I did 20 families in that crowd. So I knew this family, I knew the Schwartzes and the Rubensteins and the Cohens and this and blah, blah, blah. And we'd all get together during the cocktail hour and laugh. So when we got into that event, it was that same, wow, they wanted to party all together. I knew the music that they liked. I knew what they wanted to feel and get touched that night. And I gave it to them and made that bar mitzvah boy or bat mitzvah girl very special. So there was that warmth that was there.
So there's not that much difference between what people are trying to do today in terms of the feeling, the whole Maya Angelou, it's how you feel. What is it? What kind of personality do you think that you need? You talked about leadership and being a director early on, but there's something also that you may have created in your persona that you actually like people. I mean, what is it? What is the secret sauce of doing what you do?
I never felt like I was working an event, and I never made the guests feel like I was there for a job. I became part of their families, and I still do that to that day.
Do you do that subconsciously, or do you do that? Is that a sort of something that you can teach someone else to do?
I think you can, but I think there's a warmth inside of all of us that comes out very differently. And I felt that as I was doing the events, I didn't want to just be this person to say, okay, clap your hands, we're going to do this. Hey, follow me, blah, blah, blah. It was never that way. It was, people compared me back in that day, and I'm honored by it, as a little bit of a Don Rickles, because I was a little sarcastic on the microphone. I would laugh with people and make fun of them. I'm like, seriously, you're going to dance like that? And people would get a kick out of that. So that warmth came across, even though as Don Rickles was a very sarcastic person, there was a warmth about him. You never felt he was doing maliciously, and the same thing was with me. So I had that connection with my families, and I think other people could do that as well. Never feel like you're working the job, that we're getting to a goal together. We're creating a wow. It's a moment in their life that we have 5 hours to put together a wow, and we can't go back the next day and fix it.
So you talk about the emotional wow, the connection. People are spending gazillions of dollars on these special effects and things like that. How do you keep the personal connection, even though you're spending all this money on the wow moments? What is your way? I mean, you've done these huge events, spending millions and millions of dollars, but you still have to connect. Is there a secret to doing that today?
I think being on top of it. There was a client that I did just last year, and he said to me, "You're really on the front line too much." And I said, "I'm on the front line too much." He goes, "You're worried about every single detail. You got to start passing this stuff on to other people, these responsibilities." And I got to tell you something, after this September 10th will be 40 years in the business. I told you, 1977 is when I started. I've always been on that front line. I'm not afraid to leave the front line. I'm willing to fight the battle. So if I got to pick up the phone and call that vendor and say, "Hey, we got to do it for this and do it for that," I think that has come through, and my clients realize that. Don't become the success and then pass it on to others. Make your team successful, support them, but I've never stepped away from the front line.
So go back a little bit now. Let's sort of follow up on your career from the DJ business, where you were doing all these amazing events. What happened after that? And go into, I know we've had some economic downturns, and we've had tragedies like we couldn't believe in terms of our lifespans.
That's how we met.
Tell us, we had an amazing bonding experience when we went and worked as a volunteer on the 9/11 anniversary, and we were down in the pools, down at the base of the World Trade Center, and we watched little kids put flowers in the pools about the parents that they never saw.
Correct.
And it was bonding forever. So we're friends forever because of that experience alone.
Absolutely.
But that's the emotion that connects people in general. And it's kind of what you're trying to do in all your relationships, I assume.
Absolutely. When I said to you before what I wanted to learn more about this industry and to understand how you create an event, I think I got to understand what it really takes from being behind the scenes. Because if you think about this, we have wonderful clients in New York City. If I go back to the 80s and 90s, when Harriet Rose Katz would call me directly, when Gourmet Advisory was a very small company, and say, "I have this client in New York," we were supporting them. I never really understood these timelines and all that behind the scenes. We knew we had to be here at this time and do the event and create a wow for them and give them that moment. But I understood how much that supported a Harriet Rose Katz and her clients. And look at her now, and her daughter Melissa and the whole team, and Claudia, they're all working incredible events together and doing wows in New York. But I understood what that piece of the puzzle was. Now I had to go on the other side as myself as being the producer and get that same feeling from so many people. Not just the entertainment, but the invitation company. If I'm going to work with an Alpine Creative Group or a Red Bliss or someone like that, these connections, I want to start my client from the very beginning. The vendor I'm bringing in is not just a vendor because it's a vendor. It's a relationship you're going to have with that vendor. And I believe that's every step of the way that I've learned.
So once you learned, what was your career path after when you took these basic 101 courses? Did you go back into your own business? Did you work for somebody?
But so in 2000, we bought out EJM Entertainment, and I merged with Total Entertainment. And Total Entertainment and I were together for 11 years, from 2000 to 2011. But as this progressed, we were doing corporate America. We were starting to build that realm. And we had some great clients come in. H.J. Hines.
Total was a entertainment oriented?
It still is. Yes,
still is, okay.
Still is a big entity here in the New York area, New York, New Jersey area. And we wound up locking in some very big clients, pounding the pavement. And I'll get deeper into how I built that business. But H.J. Hines, the Hines Corporation, we were going to Pittsburgh all the time. And one of the executive vice presidents looked at me and said, Total Entertainment. I'm giving you our meetings. You're doing our sales conference. Total Entertainment. Entertainment is not a good name. It's not a connection with corporate America. And I said, explain. And he sat down and explained to me, you have to have a strong name. So we started something called Total Event Specialists. And I think I was growing a little bit faster than the total end of it, Total Entertainment end was. And I knew what I started to have to do with CAD drawings and understanding the corporate mentality and things like that. So that's why in 2011, I expanded my career and went on to another company. But these steps that I took from Total Entertainment to Total Event Specialist, an internal company inside Total, to my next steps with Go West Creative out on the West Coast, I thought I would involve myself with a creative agency. That would expand my career more. And to be honest with you, it did. I learned a lot being on the creative end, but I wound up...
What does that mean, being on the creative end? I mean, aren't you pretty much creative when you're producing an event?
Yes, but I really got to understand what true... teamwork was, as not just saying it's Michael creating the event, having a project manager, having an event producer, having different levels, writers and stuff like that. I learned the creative agency mentality, which was very good for me for 4 years. But I realized that most of my clients, it wasn't the creative agency that was bringing it in. It was me that was bringing it in. So that's why I finally went on to my own career after so many years. After 37 years in the business, I said, you know what, I'm just going to do this on my own. So if you go back to Michael's Music Madness in the 70s, that was my real first time when I was by myself. And then 80s, 90s, 2000, I was with a company. Even part of 2011 to 2016, I was with a company. But now I understood and I learned a lot from great people that taught me, mentors.
Okay, so how scary was it to go out on your own? And what do you suggest for other people that are thinking about that?
Be smart. It's not putting a shingle on the door. It really isn't. I'm very lucky, I should say, that I have a following. People know who I am. So when I put that shingle on the door, it's not that I had to do all this and pound the pavement. The doorbell rang, the phone rang. So I was lucky to have that. But for that new person that's out there, learn from people. I think every success that I've seen from people that used to work for me that now have their own companies will say, I went to the school of Michael. And that means a lot to me. And we never left as enemies. They never said, okay, I'm just going to take your clients and go out on my own. We learned from each other. And they say, Michael, there's still a piece of you in the events that I do. Yeah, they put their own flair on it. And now I'm putting my own flair on it too, saying, I love what I saw from Total. I love what I saw from EJM. I love what I saw from the Go West. But I'm putting my own take on it.
Your career is I always felt your career is one long tape. And that everything that you do, I guess now for you, especially from the age of 13, is one long tape.
It is.
But being out on your own, making it all on your shoulders again, that is a scary thought as an entrepreneur. I had the same thing when I started a BizBash.
I'm going to ask you a question. You know what scared me the most of this business? The back end of it. The payrolls, the taxes, the this and that. That's why I was always happy. I had partners. They always worried about that. Was that your concern? What was your biggest concern?
My biggest concern was the weight of the payroll that I now control the lives of. At that point, there was like 10 people. Now there's like 50 people. So every day I feel the pressure of the responsibility to make sure that I'm making the right decisions so that the people that are in my purview will be able to get paid and feel like they're having a successful careers on their own.
And I love that you said that, because I'm very proud of that. Since we incorporated it at the end of 2015, I haven't missed a payroll. We've had a great team.
And, people underestimate that is really a feat.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because a lot of people in our business, in any business, the failure rates are huge.
I know that. You're absolutely right. And I'm very proud of that. And this was basically from the full 2016. We did our taxes this year, and we were able to write these checks and do that. And that is even a bigger accomplishment as an owner of a company. Right?
Well, so 40 years in the business, and you've started a new company, which says a lot that you feel the confidence to have done this.
Correct.
Which is should be an inspiration for others out there that have been toiling in this business for a long time.
Absolutely. It's not, you see so many people and you hear it from people that come in this industry, you can imagine how much they must have made off that event. It's I've learned it's not how much you made off the event. It's what you're making and managing and knowing what to put away and how to get through your leaner times. Hey, this month may be a little slower. Let's look at the future. That has a lot to do with it.
Being an entrepreneur is one of the toughest jobs in the world because you're constantly 24/7.
Absolutely.
When I was working for a big company, it was like being on vacation. Because they were worrying about the payroll.
You're right. That back end of it, even though I had partners, my whole career, as I said to you, from EJM on, they worried about that stuff. Okay. I didn't have to.
So you said that, you didn't have to worry about when you put out a shingle, you had lots of people following you. You did some really interesting marketing for your own brand. Mm-hmm. Talk about how you did that and what advice you would give to others in terms of how you sort of made your name in the industry.
So what as I said to you, in late 90s, early 2000, we were going to these conferences to learn. And I love him, and he hates that I tell this story, but I'll always tell this story. David Merrill from AOO Events in 2001 was speaking, and everybody said, oh, you got to see David. He's an incredible speaker, great designer. And David took out a vase, and he put it on the table. And at the bottom of the vase, he went, click. And the vase turned on, and the whole audience went, oh, what's that? And he goes, this is an LED light. And the whole, what's an LED? Tell us about an LED. We didn't know this. 2001. And at the end of the conference, I met David a few times. He's like, you got to tell me about this LED and that vase. I want to buy some. I want to bring them to New York. He was from California. He would not share the information with me, David. He would not tell, if you want to just get them through me. I said, but you're not the distributor. You're a designer. And it frustrated me that he would not give me the information. But then that made me think at the same time. If you really think of the 80s and 90s right now, there was no walking in with a T-shirt. There was no cases with another company's name on it. You're working for ABC. If I was with Harriet Katz at Gourmet Advisory, I was Gourmet Advisory. I wasn't another company, and that's the way it was in the 80s and 90s. So in 2001, when David did that to me, I was like, why are people not sharing ideas?
That's very funny because we have been accused of disintermediating the event industry because we would start covering events and say who the vendors were.
Right,
and
exactly.
People were like, oh my God, how could you do this?
Right.
When it turns out that the skill set that they're selling is their own talent, not necessarily who their vendors were.
I can't agree with you more. I got punched in the face too because in 2002, I did my first, and it wasn't Michael Cerbelli's Hot List. The original name was Michael Cerbelli's 101 Hot Event and Entertainment Ideas in 90 Minutes. And I asked Event Solutions Magazine, would you let me do this for 90 minutes? They were like, 90 minutes? I said, I'm going to give away 101 ideas. And we did a whole pitch and feel. They said, okay, you got it. They put me in a classroom with 300 seats. 500 people showed up, David, because they knew I was going to open up my black book and give these ideas away. And what were the ideas back then? Light up ice cubes and things like that and everything that's, oh my God, that's so old, but it was a wow back in 2002. And many companies said to me, why are you sharing this information? You're giving away things that they should be coming to us and getting it from us. And now many of those companies want to be on the hot list because they see the value of it. And what happens is, and I always say this, I can't give someone 52 jobs a year. It's impossible. But if I could give them 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and they're great, why not share the wealth?
I think that, you're hitting on our secret sauce too. We do the same thing every single day. Mm-hmm. And I think what you've done, though, is the way you speak and package it, I think was also really interesting. Talk about sort of you talk about being a director. How do you produce those types of presentations?
The hot list? So what has happened now, I could tell you, and BizBash is a great source for me too. You have your ideas that come in there, and I'm always looking at hot new stuff and tweak and say, you know what, let's put that to the side. So for about a year out, we'll get ideas that we'll read about, look at, and then on top of it, now because it's so successful, people actually send us, you got to get on Cerbelli's hot list. You got to get out there. So we probably get about 2 to 3 ideas a week from outside people, and it goes into this big database. And then usually around October, November, we start looking at it and saying, okay, let's pull this. Let's get that. I caught this on TV. I saw this. This person sent that. And the list gets built. Now, we're not doing 101 ideas in 90 minutes, but in a 90-minute show, which has become a live show, we're doing about 36 ideas, And some of it is entertainment, some of it is product, some of it is decor, some of it is even concepts. So it's become a live show where 2,000 to 3,000 people come out each year at the special event show. This come see it, and which I'm very proud about. This June will be the first time we're doing the second live show in the same year for MPI.
Fantastic.
Yes.
How have you seen that list change over the years? Like, what was the center of gravity back when you started it, and what is the center of gravity now in terms of how you look at things?
Definitely the center of gravity back then was more product. As the years have gone on, people are really looking into entertainment. And why I mentioned to you an MPI, which is going to be very successful, I tell people I'm like a biscuit to gravy to a meeting planner, because they're going to meetings. Like I used to go to meetings and did the 101. They understand procurement. They understand what attrition is. And that's what they're going to these meetings and hearing about. But now is, what can I be doing for my general session? What can I be doing for my closing night? What can I do to wow my board? The sales meeting. What's that interesting?
The emotional piece. I mean, you're really coming back to your original comment of the light bulb going off, of getting that microphone and walking into the crowd in some way.
Yes.
But this is a way that people can do it without having the personality there, it sounds like.
And you say that too, and that's what I put out on that stage too, I believe, that personality, that yes, I'm that host and having fun with everybody, and the people are looking for me for guidance. Again, what is Cerbelli saying, what's hot? And it gets the MC stamp of approval. But that meeting planner now is looking for that interaction. What is that entertainment piece? What is something that's going to connect this crowd? What's going to send it out to social media? What's going to bring this all together?
Right.
So it's not just product anymore. It's really more that entertainment factor that's much stronger.
So you are sort of an example of what people didn't realize was the biggest thing happening was content marketing. You were doing content marketing before content marketing was hot. You were doing audience engagement before it was hot. So it's like, what do you think the next thing is, either in terms of events or in terms of marketing yourself? I mean, what's in your brain about what you think you want to try that someone would say, you're crazy?
I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I've gone that deep into it, but I could tell you what I truly see with the next big thing with events is our virtual reality and technology really getting deeper involved. And yes, there's touches right now of it, and some things are being much better than it was 3 years ago that are now. But I believe from drones to LED, it's going to take our event industry by storm in a very strange way.
But you think that it's going to eventually, I've heard a lot of people talking, going back to sort of the minimalist, like the complete counter of lack of that kind of stuff that invades the senses. Do you see a backlash at some point?
No, I got to be honest with you. Most of the events that we're doing, I'm leaving for Palm Desert on Saturday for an event. And a lot of that event has to do with that emotional connection. And a lot of it has to do with technology, from even the people simply doing registration now to drones doing a full light show in the sky because we can't do fireworks. And that's become a big thing too. It was so funny. On January 16th or 17th is when I did the hot list in January. And a few weeks later, there's Lady Gaga at the Super Bowl in Arizona, and she's got 80 drones flying
the drones
over
thing
her.
has been a big deal.
Exactly. And I had a dozen of them in an audience. For 3,000 people in a conference room, I should say, an arena that was flying around over them. And those things that people are seeing, wow, I could bring this to my event. I could do that. That technology is there for me. It's not just seeing the wow of the Olympics, the grand opening. There are many things that you could be pulling into their events with technology and that wow, light up floors, things like that have become very, very affordable and taking it to a different level. I don't see that minimalistic.
Okay,
I'm being honest.
I'm just asking the questions and playing devil's advocate here. I don't necessarily see it because we are products of our era. So it's all different. So go back to the 13-year-old DJ and tell us what things that you learned from that 13-year-old DJ that you would change if you look back at it over this 40-year career, or actually it's longer than that.
I would have invested in Apple.
Yeah, we all would have done that.
You know something? I'm going to tell you, every mistake along the way has been very, very important for me. And I shouldn't say mistake, every trip, which you should trip. I think that has made me stronger.
Go through any that you should recommend as a learning experience. What did you do? Everyone loves to hear from the mistakes that you've made.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Not that, mine are too too many to even recall.
No.
But are there any sort of major ones to end on? We'll end on a more positive note, but what did you learn the most from in terms of a trip?
Wow. That's a really good question, David. I wish I could answer it very quickly for you, but I don't think I don't think I ever had one big error. Listen, being prepared more, being more detailed. Yes, those are the things that I could tell you. The 13-year-old was different than the 23-year-old, and that was different than the 33-year-old. But I believe that what we created from scratch back in the 80s and 90s made us stronger. Knowing what is the right timeline, how do you move people between events, and those mistakes like that. Saying, okay, you got 2 hours to get to New Jersey. You got to get from Long Island or Woodbury to Ridgefield, New Jersey. It's not going to happen. But as a kid, you say, okay, we could do that. We can make it. We're young. We'll pack up quickly. So those are the things that I'm talking about. Having crews understand how to mobilize. You know what? Yeah, the crew from Woodbury probably could get to Ridgefield, New Jersey, but you know what? Now you have to know how to charge, because if you want us for that event, maybe it's a crew that sets up earlier. Yeah. Maybe it's not you packing up your equipment and going to the next event. Maybe you leave, that crew packs up, and you go, and now you do the next event. So those are things that we had to take baby steps along the way and understand, because when you got there an hour late and they're finishing cocktail hour and you're just walking in with your equipment, it's not a good feeling, right? Because you get that face.
Okay, last question. Actually, 2 questions. What was your DJ name? And number 2, are you DJing at all anymore?
No. Let me answer the latter question. I have in storage that's costing me a fortune each month. 10,000 albums in storage, still in the original milk crates. Wow! And they're albums. I started to get out of it once CD became popular. But my name is Michael Cerbelli, and my DJ name was Mikey C. And so you take MC, and being an MC, it all came together. So I will still use as my login name MCMC.
That's great. Okay, so Michael MC, how do people get in touch with you if they want to reach you?
It's Cerbelli Creative here in New York City. We're all over Facebook, the web. Just hit us. We're just put in Cerbelli. I'm easy to find.
Great. Thanks so much, Michael.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Player FM, Google Play, and Pocket Cast. Be sure to leave us a rating and review. It helps others discover the GatherGeeks podcast. We'd also love to hear from you. You can leave feedback on Twitter at GatherGeeks or leave us an email, gathergeeks@bizbash.com. We hope you'll join us again for the next episode of GatherGeeks. Until then, gather on. GatherGeeks is brought to you by Master Planner Online. Choose your event date with confidence. Avoid costly scheduling conflicts with Master Planner. With this continuously updated online calendar of fundraisers, important openings, and major events, you'll know precisely what's happening and where in New York and Los Angeles. Subscribe today at masterplanneronline.com.